Guys, Mosa here, and today I'm bringing you my Week 1 NFL Power Rankings. Now, without further ado, let's get started. Now, let's kick it off with the Cleveland Browns, dead last, 32. They'll be taking on I believe they're going to be taking off the Bengals in this next game, in the first game of the season. So, that's going to be an interesting game, but one major thing for the Browns is about quarterback. And first of all, who are they going to start? The Browns are going to, they're going to start Joe Flacco. But like Shador, Dylan, that new rookie quarterback they signed during the preseason, and even Deshaun Watson, that's going to be troublesome for the Browns. Not in the sense, because obviously we don't have to worry much about Deshaun. He's injured and not good. But the Browns, other than that, still not doing too good. And I actually think that either they're tied dead last with the next team I'll mention, or they are dead last, but not by much. Now, moving on to number 31, we got the New Orleans Saints, who will be taking on the Arizona Cardinals at home. And to be honest, the Saints, their issue is inexperience, and that is with their rookie quarterback Tyler Shaw. I do not remember if Shaw will be the starter or if Rattler or someone else is, but regardless, do you really think that they're going to be doing anything with either one of those two guys? If you want to throw in Taysom Hill, who probably won't be playing quarterback at all, or Jake Hayner, do you really think any of them are going to be any good this season under that Saints offense? I don't think so. Saints defense as well. It's going to be okay, but I still think they're going to struggle massively against big teams like, well, just massive teams in their division. No, well, not in their division. Like in their division, we're talking about maybe one loss and one win with the Panthers, and the two other games they're swept by the Falcons and by the Buccaneers. But in the end, this is going to be an interesting season, but it is most likely going to be a tank season for the New Orleans Saints. Now, moving on to number 30, we got the Jacksonville Jaguars at number 30, and they're going to be taking on the Carolina Panthers this Sunday at home. Now, when it comes down to the Jaguars, is he going to be healthy? That I'm talking about Trevor Lawrence. Is that offensive line going to be good enough for Travis Etienne or whoever's going to be the running back of that backfield? And how good will Travis Hunter be at wide receiver and corner this season? I think he's going to be an excellent corner, but struggle at wide receiver. Now, when it comes down to it, I think the Jaguars they're just not going to be that good. They'll struggle, but maybe they'll make a push at the end, but it'll most likely be for naught, and the Jaguars will most likely fail to make the playoffs yet again. Now, moving on to the Arizona Cardinals at number 29, they'll be taking on the Saints on the road. Now, when it comes down to the Cardinals, I still think they're going to be doing pretty bad. That's obviously why I got them down here at 29. But they're a team that could be on the up and up in this season. Maybe they'll start like in the bottom and then they'll be like, hey, look at us. We're just moving up more and more. Now, obviously, when it comes to Kyler Murray, this is one of the years that it's going to be problematic for the Cardinals because is he truly the guy, or are you going to have to draft a new quarterback in the near future, whether it be next year, the year after that, whenever that be? But even if that's the case, could a new quarterback take over and win for the Cardinals? I don't know about that. I feel like the Cardinals need a lot of improvements before handing over the reins to a new quarterback. And for right now, I think Kyler Murray will do okay, but don't expect much for the Arizona Cardinals. Only if the Cardinals actually start improving against tough teams like Seattle, San Francisco, and Los Angeles within their division. Now, moving on to number 28, we got the Indianapolis Colts, who will be taking on the Miami Dolphins at home on Sunday. Now, when it comes down to the Colts, their problem with quarterback is humongous. First of all, you got Daniel Jones starting. So he goes from being a Giant starter, mediocre starter, or even sometimes bad for the Giants, all the way down to being now the Colts starter. And probably is going to be the same thing with the Indianapolis Colts, and nothing will change. When you also got not a rookie, but a third string quarterback, sorry, a third year quarterback who will now come in as the most likely the backup, and he's injury prone as well. So Anthony Richardson, not going to be a good year for him. But the Colts, they might reach 500 or just a little under it, but don't expect them to make the playoffs this season or maybe even a few seasons after this one. Now, moving on to number 27, we got the Las Vegas Raiders, who will be taking on the Patriots this Sunday in Foxborough. Now, when it comes down to the Las Vegas Raiders, they have Geno Smith. They have a relatively good receiving core, maybe mediocre. And then you get some good tight ends and Mayer and Bowers. You got a good running back in your rookie, Ashton Genty. You got a decent quarterback in Geno Smith. And then you got that defense of the Raiders. And who's leading the charge at head coach? Pete Carroll, the former Seahawk head coach and Super Bowl winning head coach and national title winning head coach. I think. I don't remember if he did win. I know he won the Rose Bowl that one year with the USC Trojans. Regardless, honestly, it's going to be a very good season under Pete Carroll, but just not enough. I do not think Pete Carroll is going to be doing enough to make sure these guys are pushed over the hump. I still think the Las Vegas Raiders struggle on several occasions, but it will definitely be better than years past, as the Las Vegas Raiders will 100% be better, but just not good enough with Pete Carroll as their head coach. Moving on to number 26, we got the New York Jets, who will be taking on the Pittsburgh Steelers this Sunday at home. Now, when it comes to the Jets, obviously the preseason injury, or well, not preseason, but I think he got injured during the training camp, and that was, of course, Justin Fields is going to make the Jets struggle a bit. But to be honest, the Jets have not been good in recent times, so I'm going to think that they're going to struggle throughout the year. But if they get a healthy Justin Fields, maybe they have a chance. But honestly, Aaron Glenn's going to be doing a good job as the Jets head coach. But, I mean, I don't think he's going to be taking these guys to no playoff run or anything like that. I think that he's going to probably make them better than they were last year. And then maybe in the next season or the one after that, they actually make the playoffs and potentially pretty far into it as well. Now, moving on to number 25, and that would be the Dallas Cowboys. Now, they're going to be taking on the defending champion Eagles this Thursday night at Philadelphia. And I'm just going to tell you one thing about the Cowboys. No Micah, no chance. I'm not thinking the Cowboys are going to have a chance against the Eagles, let alone be a good, decent team in this season without Micah Parsons after trading him this week, I think this week, to the Green Bay Packers. And then the Green Bay Packers immediately extending him. Like, to be honest, Jerry Jones lost that trade. Definitely, 100%. And I'm going to tell you this, unless Micah Parsons just falls off of a cliff, I don't think there's a chance that the Cowboys actually win this trade. And when it comes down to it, that's a big part of your defense in the pass rush and run stop. And what you get after that, Kenny Clark. Nothing bad about Kenny Clark, but he's no Micah Parsons. And that's someone that you can never really you can't like just trade him away and then think you're gonna get, oh, we got 2 first round picks, we're gonna get someone better. Nah, that's not the type of player Micah is. Micah is one of those players that you can hardly ever find in a draft. You got lucky to find him, but now that he's gone, you're gonna struggle. And that's what I think the Cowboys will do. Although they will be winning some games, beware of the Cowboys actually going either under 500 or potentially almost with 0 wins. Now at number 24, we got the Carolina Panthers. They'll take on the Jacksonville Jaguars in Jacksonville this Sunday. Now, when it comes down to the Carolina Panthers, honestly, is he going to be good? And that is obviously their, I think, third year at this point. Quarterback Bryce Young. Is he going to be the guy they need and wanted back when they drafted him? And honestly, I think that he might. He actually might. But that won't be enough for the Carolina Panthers to make the playoffs, let alone scratch 6 to 5 wins. I think that maybe they scratch it, but that's like the ceiling for when it comes for wins for the Carolina Panthers. I still think they're going to struggle. I still think they're going to do some bad movements in the offense, bad movements in the defense, and I think that something's going to happen that keeps the Panthers out of the playoffs and just out of the race for the division, even though the division is one of the easiest in the NFL. Now, moving on to number 23, we got the New York Football Giants taking on the Washington Commanders this Sunday in Washington. But this is what I'm thinking about the Giants. How good are they going to be with Russell Wilson at the helm? How good would they be if they put in their rookie quarterback, Jackson Dart? And how good will they be this year? They'll be good, just not good enough. And that is what most of these teams in the bottom 16 and even the bottom quarter or whatever kind of team you want to say, that's their struggle. Are they going to make it or are they going to get close to making it? I think the Giants will be close to making it, but will fail right at the end. This team has some potential, but I just think they won't get to it at this point. I think that the Giants will continue being this type of team. Obviously, last year was a disaster, but this year it's going to be a little bit better, but it's still not going to be a playoff year for the Giants. Now, moving on to number 2, we got the Chicago Bears taking on the Minnesota Vikings on Monday Night Football. This team is going to be okay. We're going to go into the second year of Caleb Williams. Honestly, they got some good weapons on offense, a relatively decent offensive line. Defense, I don't know about that. But still, maybe they got a chance. They did pretty well in this offseason, but is it enough? And that's what really is the question. Did they do enough to get past the hump? And I think that is a no. They most likely will be a 9 to 8, maybe even 7 win season type of team. But after that, just forget about the Bears because the Chicago Bears are just not going to be the playoff team this year. Maybe next year or the year after that if they improve. But for right now, I'm not seeing that for the Chicago Bears. Now, moving on to the New England Patriots at 21. They will be taking on the Las Vegas Raiders this weekend in Foxborough. Now, when it comes down to it, I think that the New England Patriots will do pretty good with Drake May at quarterback. They will do relatively decent job against most, well, I say most, maybe half of their teams they're facing this year. But realistically, I think that this is going to be a year the Patriots are going to get closer to making the playoffs again, but still are going to miss it by maybe 1 or 2 games. Obviously, they're not going to win the division. That is far off from anything they could possibly do, but still, they do have a chance, and we really need to know more about Drake May before we start calling him the future of the New England Patriots. And I think we're going to be seeing that this year. Now, moving on to number 20, we got the Tennessee Titans, who will take on the Denver Broncos in Denver this upcoming Sunday. Honestly, they're starting their rookie first overall quarterback, Cam Ward. And honestly, that's pretty good for them. But is it going to be good to start a rookie straight out? I think that that's always been a death sentence for quarterbacks to start out their career instantaneously, unless they're ready, obviously. But when has a rookie quarterback ever been ready? Like, there are a few occasions, but not every time. I really don't see that the Titans really do much to make the playoffs. And even if they do, they're not going to make it out of the first round with Ward at quarterback. Not saying that he's a bad quarterback or anything, but mostly saying that I don't think the Titans are even going to make it. And if they do, they're going to struggle and lose in their playoff game against whoever that may be. Now, moving on to number 19, we got the Pittsburgh Steelers, who will be taking on the New York Jets in New York or East Rutherford this upcoming Sunday. Now, when it comes down to that, the Steelers, is Aaron Rodgers going to be on his last team in the NFL? I think that is indeed a yes. Not only from his own mouth, but if he attempts to play for another team or for the Steelers for one more year, who knows? I think that that's going to be a horrific time for whoever signs him or for the unless he's being signed to be a backup. Like, I don't think that this year is going to be pretty good for the Steelers, but if any time ever is the time for the Steelers to win a Super Bowl, it is now with Aaron Rodgers, because if they don't, I don't expect them to have good enough teams to even make the playoffs, let alone keep a winning record under Mike Tomlin. Up next at number 18, we got the Miami Dolphins, who will take on the Indianapolis Colts this Sunday in Indy. Now, when it comes down to the Dolphins, it's down to Tua's health. Is Tua going to be completely healthy for this year? And are there going to be any issues? I hope not. I really hope that there is no issue with Tua Tagovailoa, but that is a main concern. Obviously, you got some pieces that are going to help you win, like Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill, and honestly, some good defenders as well. But I think the Dolphins are really going to struggle, not because of Tua, hopefully, but honestly, mostly due to the fact that they are just going to be struggling against these. Not the Colts. I don't think they're going to be struggling as much against the Colts, but when they start facing off against big teams, that's when the struggle is going to come in, and that's when I think the Dolphins are probably going to be screwed over, and they might lose a game that might just end the season for the Miami Dolphins. But for right now, it's going to be an okay season for the Dolphins. Now, moving on to number 17, we got the Cincinnati Bengals, who this weekend will be taking on the Cleveland Browns on Sunday in Cleveland. Now, when it comes down to the Bengals, is Joe Burrow going to be the quarterback? Obviously. When I say that, I don't mean that he's going to be benched or anything, but is he going to be healthy enough to stay on the field? That is the main concern for the Bengals. They obviously got some good defense in their rookie edge rusher. I think is Shamar something. I don't remember how to say his name, or even if I said it, if it's that. But I imagine you guys know who I'm talking about. And the other side being Trey Hendrickson. And realistically, I think that this is going to be a good season for the Bengals if Joe Burrow stays upright and in the games. That is the main concern. Offense. Is the Burrow offense going to be there, or is it going to be his backup? Because if it's his backup, I don't expect much points to be scored by the Bengals, and that will also force the Bengals to lose games, and obviously miss the playoffs. And honestly, I think that that's going to happen if Burrow goes down again, but hopefully he does not. Now, moving into number 16, we got my Seattle Seahawks. And honestly, I saw some pretty good things from the Seahawks this preseason. Now, obviously, J- you got Jalen doing some pretty good things out there on the field. You got Jake Bobo making plays. You got, like, honestly, the team was just pretty good. You also got some running backs who did a good job. And I honestly think that the Seattle Seahawks are a playoff bound team. Now, does that mean they're going to win their division? No. I do not think the Seahawks will be winning the NFC West. And if they do, it's going to be by probably the last game. And if not, they might make the playoffs as the number 5 or 6 seed, maybe in 7. But realistically, there's, I think, a small chance we miss the playoffs. But even so, that's probably a first round or second round knockout for the Seahawks. And although that would be a pretty good year for the Seahawks, I honestly would be happy with that. If we don't make the playoffs, it's really going to be troublesome, but we can move on from it. I think that the Seahawks would do pretty good in the future. Like, we got our potential future in our rookie quarterback who will sit behind Sam Darnold, but for now, let's just see what happens. Now at number 15, we got the San Francisco 49ers. Now they'll be taking on my Seahawks in Seattle this Sunday, but moving on from that, honestly, I think that the Seahawks are going to struggle a bit against the 49ers, but I think that these 49ers team is also going to be in the same boot as Seattle. Not as bad, but still pretty bad. Like, I'm most likely seeing that the Rams would win the division over either the Seahawks or 49ers. Either the Rams win it, or it's going to be basically a battle between San Francisco and Seattle. And for whoever one of those two teams surpasses the LA Rams and makes it into the postseason as either division champion or not. And the San Francisco 49ers, with their outstanding offense and defense, I think have a chance. And that's main reason I have them over my Seattle Seahawks is because of that. They have a good defense, they have a good offense, they got a good head coach, and they paid their quarterback. So realistically, this is everything they have. The 49ers need to throw everything they got into going into the playoffs. And if they don't, well, misery will come for the 49ers after this and maybe another season of the 49ers potentially trying to get to another Super Bowl. Now moving on to number 14, we got the Atlanta Falcons, who will be taking on the Buccaneers at home. And to be honest, I think the Falcons, their issue is mostly what are they going to do with Kirk Cousins? And I think Michael Penix will definitely, from this point on, be the starter for the Falcons. I have faith in that the Falcons will do a good job this season, but that overpaying of Kirk Cousins to back up Michael Penix Jr., that is going to be what makes them struggle, because then that's more money being put to the backup and less money going to guys coming in to help Michael Penix and the Falcons win. And that's what I think is going to be an issue for the Falcons. Other than that, most likely either they win the division or they're out of the playoffs. One of the two things will happen. Either they're the 4 seed or they're not in the playoffs. That's what's going to happen. Michael Penix, I think, has the chance, but I still think that he might actually be eliminated from playoff contention, and most likely either the Bucks or Panthers would make it in. Now at number 13, we got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and I think that the Bucks, who will be taking on the Falcons in Atlanta, will most likely have the highest opportunity to make the playoffs, as I think they are the most likely NFC South champions. And yeah, most likely they be the guys. But don't count on Atlanta, like I said. The Carolina Panthers are also there. They have the least amount of chance, but the Buccaneers, led by Baker Mayfield, and that offense, the defense is going to be pretty good. So, unless there are major injuries, you got to watch out. But for right now, when it comes, for me at least, this team has what it takes. It honestly can go far enough. But for right now, unless there are major injuries, there are most likely not going to be much issues for the Buccaneers to get into the playoffs. It's winning a playoff game that really tells if they're ready to go to a Super Bowl with Baker Mayfield as their quarterback. Now, moving on to number 12, we got the Houston Texans. Now, honestly, Stroud and that offense will do an excellent job. Nick Chubb, not the same back he was before, but definitely going to get a lot of carries to just take the weight off of their starter in obviously CJ Stroud. While honestly, this team is going to be all right on offense. Defense is pretty good. We're going to be seeing this team as the most likely EFC South champion. But my question is, are they going to be good enough in the playoffs? That is where it matters the most with the Texans. They have not been successful in the playoffs, but other than that, they've been pretty successful. And that's not pretty good if you're just successful in the regular season. As obviously every team wants to win a Super Bowl, and I think the Houston Texans have an opportunity to do so, but they'll have to beat heavyweights in the playoffs, such as Kansas City, Buffalo, Cincinnati, and what other team makes the playoffs that is definitely better than the Texans. But for right now, I think that the Houston Texans will most likely make it, but then lose in the first or second round. Now, moving on to number 11, we got the Los Angeles Rams, who will actually be taking on the Houston Texans at home. But when it comes to this, is Matthew Stafford going to be healthy enough to do anything this season? And that is my main concern with the Rams. And realistically, they could potentially win the division without Matthew Stafford, but it's highly unlikely. So either they have Matthew Stafford, they win the division either slightly or without a shadow of a doubt, or they don't have Matthew Stafford, make it in as a wild card, and then lose in the first round. So realistically for me, I think that we're going to be seeing the Rams in the playoffs, no doubt in my mind about that. But are they going to be good? How good are they going to be? And I think, without a shadow of a doubt, that we are going to be seeing the LA Rams definitely do an outstanding job on defense and offense, as long as they have Matthew Stafford at quarterback to help the offense be a very good one. Because to be honest, I don't see the Rams making it to the NFC Championship game, but I definitely see them going far enough throughout the playoffs with Matthew Stafford. Now, moving on to number 10. The top 10 starts with the LA Chargers, who will be taking on the Kansas City Chiefs in Sao Paulo. Now, when it comes down to this, honestly, the Chargers, they're going to be doing pretty good on offense. They're going to be doing pretty good on defense. But they're going to have to take on heavy hitters like Denver and Kansas City and within their own division and other teams throughout their conference. But in the end, I think the Chargers will do enough to potentially not win the division, but potentially make it in as a wild card. And that is something I think that the LA Chargers might be able to do as long as they stay healthy. That is most teams' fears. Not being healthy. Either not being healthy enough to beat a team or not being healthy enough to make it into the playoffs, such as several teams have had struggled. For example, the Bengals, who lost Joe Burrow and then failed to make the playoffs. But I think that for the Chargers, they're going to do pretty good, but it all really comes down to how good they can do against tough teams like KC. Now, moving on to number 9, we got the Denver Broncos, who will be taking on the Tennessee Titans at home. Now, Bo Nix' second year. It's going to be pretty good. I think so. And Denver defense is going to be okay. I think Denver, even though I have them above LA right now, are just neck and neck with the Chargers for that second spot in the division. Obviously, Kansas City's most likely got the division all wrapped up, while Denver and Los Angeles will battle for that number 2 spot. Maybe a little bit of a uh, playoff push to be the 7th seed, at least from the Vegas Raiders, but I don't think so. When it comes to Denver, though, honestly, they've got all they need in order to win. And I think that if they continue on their current path, they will 100% not only win, but probably, well, possibly actually, make it to the AFC Championship game, but lose to either the Chiefs, Bills, or Bengals. Now moving on to number 8, we got the Minnesota Vikings who will be taking on the Chicago Bears this Monday Night Football in Chicago. Now when it comes down to the Minnesota Vikings, obviously they had a good season offensively last year. I think their defense is pretty good this year as well. But my question is, how good of a quarterback will JJ McCarthy be in the regular season? That is what I need to know, because with that, we can make an informed decision on whether or not he is actually a good quarterback, or if the system is good enough for any quarterback, such as Sam Darnold, who now is with my Seattle Seahawks. Now, when it comes down to it, I think that JJ's going to be doing an okay job. Not the best, but definitely he's going to have some good things coming from him. In the end, I think that definitely the thing is with them, I think they might actually make the playoffs, but depending on how Green Bay does, maybe that's not as the division champions. But realistically, they're neck and neck in that position. If and only if JJ McCarthy does a good job and leads the Vikings to the postseason. Now, moving on to the Green Bay Packers at number 7, who will be taking on the Detroit Lions in Green Bay this Sunday. Now, when it comes down to it, I think that the Green Bay Packers will do a good job. Jordan Love's been good with the Packers ever since, obviously, the loss of Aaron Rodgers. It's not really hit them at all. Like, Jordan has been in the playoffs, has been doing a good job, although he did face a mediocre Dallas Cowboys team the first time he made the playoffs as the full-on starter. And yeah, I think that 100% this team's going to have a very good offense, but I'm not looking at that. I'm looking at that defense and that 4-year over 100, I think 88, something like that, $1 million deal, highest paid non-quarterback contract in NFL history for Micah Parsons. That's where the true Packers are going to be. It's there with Micah. Micah Parsons is going to have an excellent season with the Green Bay Packers, and the Packers will exceed expectations on defense. Now moving on to number 6, and that being the Detroit Lions. Now the Lions I did fail to mention when I talked about Minnesota, but Detroit's also in there for the potential for that division title victory. It's really down to, honestly, Green Bay, Detroit, Minnesota. Those 3 teams are going to be incredibly good this year. Chicago, not going to win the division, but most likely has a chance for the playoffs. Regardless, I think that the Detroit Lions have a very good offense and defense. My only issue is the coaching staff. Was it Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn who really made the Detroit Lions who they were? Or will the Detroit Lions just start losing because they lost their offensive and defensive coordinators? And I think that might not be the case. I think they won't win the division. And if they do, it'll be by a slim margin against either the Packers or the Vikings. But in the end, I think that we're going to be seeing a very good Detroit team back into the playoffs, either against Green Bay, Minnesota, or whichever other team they have to face in the wild card and then in the divisional round. Now let's kick off the top 5 with the Washington Commanders, who will be taking on the New York Giants at home this Sunday. Now, when it comes to the Commanders, honestly, they are pretty good. Jaden Daniels, honestly, pretty good quarterback. And honestly, I expect more from him this year than we did last year. And I know that Commanders most likely will not be making it to the the Super Bowl. The playoffs, definitely. But definitely not as the division champions. That's either going to be realistically them or Philadelphia, realistically. But in the end, do we really think Philadelphia's not going to win that division title? Regardless, I think that the Washington Commanders will do a very good job this season, make it to the postseason, and realistically, with Jaden Daniels and the offense and the defense on the other side helping Jaden, I think that this is going to be a very good year for the Commanders and that we're going to be seeing a potential playoff run and potential NFC championship for the Washington Commanders this year. Now, moving on to the number 4 spot, and that would be the Kansas City Chiefs, who will be taking on the LA Chargers in Sao Paulo on Friday. And that would be an excellent game to watch. But honestly, I think this team will win the division most likely. And they got a pretty tough route to it. The Chargers and Broncos are pretty good. But realistically, Patrick Mahomes and that offense is going to be doing an excellent job. And that defense may struggle at times, but I think that they'll do an excellent job. Good enough to make it to the playoffs, postseason, maybe even down all the way to the AFC Championship game. But for me, I think that we're going to be seeing a very tough road for the AFC Championship this year for Kansas City. I think the sophomore slump, or sorry, not the sophomore slump, the Super Bowl slump, the Super Bowl curse is going to hit them. They're going to make the playoffs. They're going to do a good job. But it's right there at the end where they're going to really mess up. And then the Chiefs will not be making no second. Well, I think this would be their fourth consecutive Super Bowl appearance. I'm not really, because they won 2 and they lost the last year. So, yeah, around their 4th Super Bowl appearance. So, well, I don't know. Maybe a dynasty will continue in Kansas City this season. Now, on to the 3rd spot, we got the Baltimore Ravens, who will be taking on the Buffalo Bills on Sunday Night Football. Now, when it comes down to the Ravens, Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry, that combo in that backfield is honestly going to be pretty good this season. I think they got some new weapons for the quarterback, Lamar Jackson. Defense, pretty good. Now, will they make the playoffs? Without a shadow of a doubt. Will they make it past the second round? Maybe. But I think likely, if they face either Buffalo or Kansas City, in the divisional round, they would win. But if they face anyone else, such as Cincinnati and maybe some lower level team, they might actually be upsetted. And that's what I think would happen. Right now, I think this team's pretty good. But what will happen when it comes January 2026? I, in fact, believe that the Baltimore Ravens will not be the same Baltimore Ravens that I'm talking about right now. Now, at the 2nd spot, we got the Buffalo Bills, who will take on the Ravens this Sunday night. Now, when it comes to Buffalo, they're going to be doing pretty good. I expect them to make the playoffs as well, possibly AFC Championship game. Honestly, this team with Josh Allen and honestly, that offense is going to be pretty good. Defense going to do an all right job, help them make the playoffs by winning their division outright. But to be honest, that just might mean that they will be eliminated in the second round or maybe in the AFC Championship game because they would be going up against a weak AFC East. But maybe, just maybe, Buffalo will actually make their first Super Bowl since the 1990s. Now, taking up the top spot is the defending undisputed Super Bowl champions, Philadelphia Eagles. I think the Eagles, Jalen Hurts, that offense, Saquon Barkley, honestly, it's going to be pretty good. The defense, also going to be pretty good this year. And I think there might be a chance that the Eagles actually make it back to the Super Bowl. But it is a long shot. I do, in fact, believe that they will win the division. Washington will be probably neck and neck with them right there in the division. But I still think Philadelphia sneaks it out. In the end, it all really comes down to how good this team can face off against not only the Commanders, but other good NFC teams such as Green Bay, Minnesota, Detroit, and honestly any other team. And also against other teams that they might actually face off in the Super Bowl if they make it back, like KC, Baltimore, or Buffalo, or maybe even Cincinnati. In the end, I think that we're going to be seeing a very good Philadelphia Eagles team that might be upsetted in the playoffs this year. Now, that was it for this video. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. Who should have been higher and who should have been lower? Tell me down in the comments below. Now, like this video if you liked it, subscribe, and hit the notification if you want more videos. And I'll see you guys next time.